What's up, Michigan football fans? Today I'm asking one simple question. Well, I guess it's kind of two questions. What is Michigan's ceiling this season, and what is their floor? If you're active on Twitter at all, you've probably seen this account called Big Game Boomer. They tweet all during the college football season. Well, they just came out with every team's ceiling and every team's floor. Yes, technically, every team has a ceiling of 12-0 for the regular season and a floor of 0-12, but we're looking at it from a more realistic viewpoint. Let's just take a look and see what they have for all the Big Ten teams first. We've got Illinois with a ceiling of 7-5 and a floor of 2-10. Indiana with a ceiling of 4-8. What happened to them? And a floor of 2-10. Iowa they have at 9-3 with a floor of 5-7. Maryland ceiling 8-4, floor 5-7. Michigan ceiling 10-2, floor 8-4. Michigan State ceiling 11-1, floor 6-6. Minnesota 10-2 with a floor of 6-6. Nebraska 8-4 with a floor of 5-7. Northwestern ceiling of 4-8, floor of 2-10. Ohio State ceiling of undefeated, floor of 1 loss, 11-1. Penn State ceiling of 9-3, floor of 5-7. Purdue ceiling of 11-1, floor of 7-5. Rutgers 6-6 for a ceiling and 2-10 for the floor, and Wisconsin 10-2, ceiling 7-5 floor. It doesn't surprise me that they have Ohio State's floor as 11-1 because let's face it, they've lost 5 games over the last 5 years or something. So that really doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me is that they think Purdue has a chance of possibly going 11-1. It just depends on really how you define a team's ceiling. Because again, every team has a chance to go 12-0, but I mean, that seems like a really high ceiling for Purdue. The fact that they put Michigan at 10-2 for their ceiling is a little bit surprising to me because I feel like 10-2 would kind of be a disappointing season for Michigan at this point. So I really don't think that is the team's ceiling. The team's ceiling, I think, is going back to the Big Ten championship, going back to the playoff. The real ceiling is winning the college football playoff. Michigan, who last year their only regular season loss was to Michigan State in a game that was controversial and Michigan definitely should have won. I mean, it's their own fault that they didn't, but the refs sure didn't help things. So you're looking at a team that easily could have been 12-0 going into the playoffs, and they're saying that ceiling for this year is 10-2. Sure, they lost Ajabo and Aiden Hutchinson, but they're also returning most of the starters on the offensive side of the ball. Let's just go game by game and say, what do we think Michigan's chances are that they're going to win these games? Week 1 is at home against Colorado State, where Michigan is currently a 27.5 point favorite. By the way, if you're not subscribed yet to the Mace Pylon channel, make sure you do that now. I'm going to be doing a preview of Week 1, the Michigan versus Colorado State game coming up in the next week or so. So make sure you're subscribed. So Michigan's going to win this game. The only question is by how many points. If somehow they lose, then that will be a devastating start of the season. I put the chances of winning this game at about 98%. Hawaii is a team that's probably going to have a halfway decent offense, but again, Michigan should roll. There's going to be a theme to these first 4 weeks. Now, last year, Hawaii did beat Colorado State, which is Michigan's Week 1 opponent. So I guess we'll have a little bit maybe to gauge off of there to see how the two teams are going to compare. But again, if Michigan loses this game, well, they're not going to lose this game. Week 3, UConn, much of the same. Chances of losing are going to be very minimal. This isn't the Brady Hoke era anymore. You guys remember that UConn scare? That was fun. UConn football went 1-11 last year. They won 1 game. So you tell me what the chances are that Michigan's going to win this game. The good thing about the first 4 weeks for Michigan is that they're going to be able to play a lot of players, get a lot of experience for the young guys, and really work in both quarterbacks, I would say, to see who's going to get the nod going into conference play. Speaking of conference play, that's when Michigan starts in Week 4 at home against Maryland. Maryland hasn't really been a formidable foe lately, so I don't expect much of a challenge here in the Big House. Michigan gets the first 4 games at home. So, I mean, the chances of them winning this game are maybe a little bit lower than the first 3 games, but it's still got to be 80 to 90%. This is the first game that could give Michigan some problems, I think. Week 5 at Iowa. Iowa's going to try to get sweet revenge for last year's Big Ten championship game. Michigan is more talented than Iowa. There's no question about that. But there's something about Kinnick Stadium, man. There's something about Kinnick. And the fact that Michigan's quarterback battle's going on, we're not sure who's going to be the starter. We're not sure. Say JJ does get the nod to start at Kinnick. Is he going to make mistakes? Is that game going to be under the lights? We don't really know. So that's a game that Michigan could lose because crazy things have happened. You guys remember the 2016 season. Michigan was rolling, and then they went to Iowa, and that season really got derailed. Week 6 at Indiana. If you would have asked me a few years ago, I would be worried about this game, but Indiana is not what they were in recent years. Thank you for giving us Mike Hart. We'll take that. So this was another one that Michigan should roll. So I say 5-1 at worst through the first 6 games. And look, we know that 2020 was an anomaly. James Franklin just doesn't come to the big house and beat Michigan. So we don't count 2020. Look at every other year that Penn State has come to Michigan. It's just been an absolute beatdown. And I have a feeling it's going to be the same here. You can't really ever count out Penn State, but I think James Franklin is apt to make really dumb coaching decisions, like kicking a field goal when you're down 28-0 later in the game, that kind of thing. So not playing to win and such. I'm not worried about Michigan losing at home to Penn State. Then Michigan gets a bye week, and then it's home against the Spartans. And as much as I hate to admit it, home against the Spartans has not been the best thing for Michigan. I don't have to tell you guys what happened in 2015. And then 2017 was the monsoon. 2020 was, they lost first week to Rutgers, but then week 2 they beat Michigan in the big house when Michigan was pretty big favorites. And look, Mel Tucker is a good coach. So if Michigan loses this game, it won't surprise me. So even though it's week 9, it's the 8th game for Michigan. So 6-2 at worst. I say 6-2 at worst here. Week 10 at Rutgers. Michigan's had some scares with Rutgers before. Last year was a crazy game that Michigan almost blew at home. And then 2 years ago, Cade McNamara basically saved Michigan from losing at Rutgers. I have a feeling this one's going to go a little differently because there's just more stability at quarterback for Michigan, and the defense is going to be pretty menacing. So very low chance they lose to Rutgers. Week 11, Nebraska. I mean, it's Scott Frost, Show me something, Scott Frost. Show me something. Prove me wrong. But I'd say that's not going to happen. Scott Frost is not going to come into the big house and beat Michigan. I would be absolutely shocked if that happens. Week 12, Illinois. Hasn't been a factor in the Big Ten since I can remember, basically. So Michigan's not going to lose that one either. And then, of course, we have Week 13 at Ohio State. The track record speaks for itself there. Michigan has not won in Columbus since the year 2000. So to expect them to go into Columbus and win, I think is a little bold. I think they can. I'm not so sure that they will. So I've got Michigan's floor at 9-3. To me, Michigan's ceiling is that they win every single one of these games. The floor is 9-3. The floor, to me, is a loss to Iowa, Michigan State, and Ohio State. 9-3. I don't see any way that Michigan could really finish worse than that unless there's some crazy injuries or something. I really don't see it. So I don't agree with you, Big Game Boomer. And neither does the JJ McCarthy burner account here, who says the floor and ceiling for every Big Ten team is really this. 12-0 ceiling, 0-12 floor. I mean, yes, technically. If you liked the video, then like the video and make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. Check out this video next and let me know down in the comments what you think Michigan's ceiling is and what do you think Michigan's floor is. Go Blue, baby.